Hello everyone, I'm Candace Lee. I'm the Vice Chancellor for University Affairs and Athletics as well as the Athletics Director here at Vanderbilt University. And I am thrilled to have the opportunity to talk to you today. So I know the question before us is, what's next? Like, what now? And without sounding flippant, I actually think the answer to that question is pretty easy. The answer is that it's up to you. Now, I understand we're talking about it in the context of COVID-19, which has been a devastating, catastrophic global pandemic that we are still dealing with. But I also know that each of us has had personal and professional challenges, and COVID-19 will not be the first. It wasn't the first, nor will it be the last. And at the end of the day, what's important is how we deal with what we are faced with. We cannot control much of what happens to us. We can't control much of what happens around us, but we can decide how we're going to forge ahead in spite. So I have a suggestion, one way to think about how you deal with what now is to think about how you deal with data. Now, I'm probably gonna say data, y'all know I'm talking about the same thing. And to be fair, I know we may have some professors watching or students watching. I took a lot of quantitative and qualitative analysis courses, but I am not talking about statistics. I'm going to define data or data for you as the narratives that we tell ourselves, the narratives that other people tell us, the stories that we tell ourselves. And I've been thinking about data in this way for a while, and so for me, it dates back a few months. Now, I've been in this position as the athletics director here at Vanderbilt for about a year and a half. Got in the position right as COVID was starting, so it's a heck of a time to take over a program. And finally, the initial few months, I was just really just putting out fires. And I'm an EDD, not an MD, so I thought, man, having to be faced with all these health and safety decisions, it just felt, the burden and the responsibility felt so great to me. Because I know that I'm responsible for other people's children, and so thinking about their health and wellness and understanding that that had to be the priority, it was quite a daunting task. When I finally got my feet under me, I thought it was time for us as a senior staff to come together and have a retreat so I could share my vision in detail and I could help us chart our path forward. Well, I created a whole agenda, right, a full day's worth. And one of the agenda items was I asked our CFO to share just some insight on the way our finances work. We had some new people around the table that didn't really understand. So he gets up and, like CFOs do, he has spreadsheets and he has pie charts and he has graphs and he's going through all of this data. And then he makes the comment, and he was talking about it in a financial sense. He said, okay, listen, I'm going to show you this, and then we're going to retire the old data and we're going to talk about what we're going to do moving forward. And I stopped him because I said, I love that phrase, retire the old data. And I meant it in the sense of, sometimes we have to let go of the narratives that no longer serve us. We have to know when to retire the data. This is really important for us as women. At Vanderbilt, it's a phenomenal institution. I'm a 3-time grad. I'm very proud of it. But Vanderbilt was not created for women, right? We were not a part of the conversation. We know that, right? When we look in history, we know that this space was not carved for us. And yet we find ourselves in spaces and we're reminded all the time that there are places that were not created for us. But somebody somewhere decided to retire the old data and give someone like Candace Lee a chance to be the athletic director. Right? We see examples like that everywhere that we look. I know you've dealt with it yourself. In athletics in particular, we use data, but we also know that it does not tell the entire story. So I played basketball here, and you can look at a scouting report. You're getting ready to play a team. There's a kid on that team that, coach says, don't worry about her. She can't use her left hand. She averages 3 points a game. You can foul her. She's not a good free throw shooter. That same kid turns around and has a game of their life because the data does not account for heart. It doesn't account for the full picture. It doesn't tell the whole story. which is why sometimes you have to retire it. You at least have to consider it. Some of you may be familiar with Sarah Fuller. So that's a young woman who graduated from Vanderbilt last year. She was on our soccer team. And I think in her honest moments, she'll tell you she was not known as a world-renowned soccer player. She battled injuries. She's been very open about her share of setbacks that she encountered while she was a student athlete here. And in her final year last year, she did play quite a bit, and the soccer team won the SEC championship. And 2 days later, she found herself practicing with our football team because once again, COVID-19 just wreaked havoc on us in so many ways, as I said. One of those ways is that we didn't know week to week who was going to be able to compete for us. And in this particular week, we had an entire position unit that was no longer available, and our coach looked around and he said, well, I need a student athlete that's already in the COVID-19 testing protocol. We don't have men's soccer. Maybe if we had men's soccer, he would have looked there. I don't know. But he decided to retire old data, do something unconventional, go find a young person, a woman who could kick, and he said, I think we're going to need you. She decided to retire old data because if she looks at history, girls don't play football. That's what the history books say. And she decided to have enough courage, enough boldness, and she took advantage of that opportunity. And that Saturday, she made history as the first woman to compete in a Power 5 football game. Everywhere we look, we have the opportunity to retire old data. That's important because it takes the limits off, and it allows you to think of like maybe the impossible now becomes possible because you've decided to retire old data. Now, I want to be clear. In no way am I saying that data-driven decisions don't matter. In my role as an athletics director and as a senior leader, we use data all the time. But I'm encouraging you to open your mind to the possibilities. You can reflect on data. We rely on data. Sometimes we resent data. Right? Sometimes we resent it, and it's the spark that we need to chart a new course. You also need to give yourself permission to retire it when it no longer serves you. So the question is, what now? What next? Take a look at the data. Look at what you're telling yourselves. If the story does not fit what you see in front of you and what you want, get rid of it. It's your story, and it's up to you. Anchor down.